everybody. It's me, Christopher Runciman, and you've tuned in to One Page Story Extravaganza. Okay, so this is episode number 165 of the year 2023. It's extreme when you say it that way, isn't it? Holy moly. Okay, so let's switch the cameras up here and whatnot. I had to plug something in there, so that was a good momentary distraction. All right, so here we are. Hi, how are you? Yeah. All right, so one page, doo-dah. So here at One Page Story Extravaganza, what we do is I'm open to people sharing ideas and suggestions for one-page stories or pieces of stories, or wouldn't it be neat to see this, somebody explore this visually and textually? We're trying to push the bounds of traditional comicry. Comicry, is that a word? It is now. Okay, so we're trying to push things forward when it comes to sequential storytelling. And what my thinking is to try to take on whatever crazy sideways ideas that we have. Today's suggestion was to tell a one-page story backwards. So what you see on the screen with me right now is what I came up with. It was a happy accident that I did a jelly print on a piece of paper. And when I did that, part of what was printed from the page that had this image, the image didn't turn out successfully at all. Let's just start with that. But what did turn out successfully was the word contents that was on the same paper. Not what I was really going for, really going for the picture that was on it and testing it out. But what's happened for us in a happy way is that where it says contents on the side of this image works in correlation to what I eventually did write and illustrate on top of it. And what it was is with this backward story. Oh, we got somebody joining us already. Hi, Mandy, how are you? Everybody that joins in, feel free to say hi. Feel free to throw any ideas at me along the way. You don't have to worry about interrupting me because I never stop blabbing. So the whole idea of having to tell, the suggestion being to tell this story backwards, what I thought I would do is disassemble one action, and that action in this case is an explosion. So it starts with the guy getting blown back, then we move into his body being propelled backwards, then the third panel, which is where he's just realized something is about to blow up in his face, and our fourth panel is where he's reaching for a suitcase that everyone suspects to be a bomb. And so we talk about it textually, about the aspect of it, but what it is we're actually exhibiting the visual in reverse. So that last panel is actually the first thing that he does, is reach for it. Oh, that's not good. Next thing you know, he's blowing backwards, and the final panel, that is him up in an explosion. So there we go. Mandy says that she's doing better after a long migraine attack. I'm sorry you're going through that, Mandy. Migraines can really stink. They really can, especially if, depending on the migraine, because that's the whole thing. It's like such a blanket term. But with migraines, there is all sorts of different levels of that. And some migraines can really shut people down. Other migraines are like, oh, I just got this terrible headache, and it makes me upset to my stomach. And then there's those migraines where you're like, make any plans. I've known people that have different levels of it. Hey, everything's fine right now, but I got a migraine. I've seen people that, I got a migraine right now. You don't really, but not compared to how other people suffer. But it's a tricky thing because they are on wholly different levels. But thank you for coming and spending some time with us today, Mandy. It's super cool of you. So the page that's posted today is our idea suggested yesterday by Mr. Jim L. And the suggestion was to write and draw a one-page story backwards. So we did. What is it? No, it's a one-page story done backwards. So we did. So there it is. And the original art is on our Patreon under Christopher Runciman. And if you want to see that there, and most of this execution was actually done yesterday during the stream. So if you want to see that, that's on yesterday's live video that we did. And we're going to get crack-a-lackin' right into today. So I went through the book a few minutes ago, and I pulled out a suggestion that I got last week. Let me pull it up here. Switch this out here. Hi. There we go. So the suggestion that I found that I was given last week was the sky splitting open, an army on horseback coming out while people are on the ground looking up. So Mandy says, I will watch yesterday's stream later. Oh, that's very nice. I hope you enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun. We talked about what we did the day before, which is the second. So now I've done 2 of the zine swap pieces for the zine swap being operated through Janet M. Young's site. And our first one is the 3 prompts were laughter, armadillo, and any tool. So armadillo, tools for today's tradesman. Hey, you! Yeah, so, and then the next suggestion that I'm working from, the 3 prompts, is beavers. Beavers, boisterous, and blinking. That was what this one was. So there's 2 done so far, and little mock-up copies to make sure everything is set ticket-a-boo. And but the originals for that is on Patreon. Patreon's like $3 a month. And it's a cup of coffee in the States or a small car in Canada. Anyhow, so that was a lot of fun. So the suggestion that I got today is a tricky one. Clearly, the initial idea that most people are going to have from this is either one of religious context or one of, Lord of the Rings. Remember when they all rode down the hill? So here's my thinking. Okay, the sky is splitting open, an army on horseback coming out. Well, there's people on the ground looking up. That's pretty fun. It's not a whole story, but what it is a fantastic opening scene of a story. It's a fantastic short little vignette of a larger piece, and there's so much more that could be done with this. But what we want to get across here is the idea of the introduction of the different aspects that are in the suggestion, but at the same time, hi Corbin, you want to come up? I gotta move Corbin's chair. Sorry, just give me a sec. Just let me move it. Let me finish moving it. Are you there? Okay, Corbin's beside me. Hold on, I'll turn on the cat cam. Oh, we got a whole bunch of people saying hi. Hi, Miriam, how you doing? And Mandy says, next year I'll have to get on the scene swap. I didn't think I could do it this year. Well, you're always if you got a 3 prompt piece and you want to just do into a little zine bit, why not do it? Miriam says, I need to finish painting what I started in my stream, so I'm lurking for a while. Lurking. All right, I got another lurker here. Let me see if I can get yep, cat cam's on. Corbin, say hi. This is Corbin helping me out. Look right here, cat cam. Okay. Well, Corbin's busy at work, as you can see. He's trying to get some stuff done to the keyboard, so we'll leave him to it. I know I'm ridiculous. I realize that. Okay, so our idea, sky splitting open, an army on horseback coming out while people are on the ground looking up at it. A lot of fun. So let's break this down. I'm going to grab a random post-it. And we'll work this out. And now I have an idea I'll try and approach today. So we got 3 key components. We've got the sky splits open. Right? There's our first. Mandy says, hi, Corbin. Toby said to say hi to everybody. That's her cat. Okay, is that Toby says hi to you, elbow kisser? Okay, now he's trying to break the keyboard. Get out of there. It's not helping. Okay, so here's our first idea. The sky ripping open, right? Sky splits open, and an army on horseback is going to come out. Hey, hey, everybody. And then we want people's reactions. So there's our three key components of information. So what we can do is build this up a little bit more, because it's one thing to just introduce A, B, C. Let's have D. Let's have a resolution on that, right? So there's our A, there's our B, there's our C, and D will be our resolution. So we have an idea, roughly, of what kind of space that we're going to be working from here. Is this one single piece of paper? No. That's crazy. All right, so there's that. And then here's our suggestion. Hey, Winky. It's winking at me. Probably smacked his eye on something crazy cat. Okay, so what I thought I'd do was this. This is tissue paper. Why have you got tissue paper, Chris? Man, am I glad you asked me that. Okay, so the reason that we've got tissue paper, and I'm going to clip it, is that I'm going to draw on the tissue paper. I'm not going to put, now here's some source images that I'm going to use from, okay? Just these little random images here. This is what I've got to the side. I'm going to keep it out of frame so it doesn't wash out our camera. Now, Corbin, you okay? He's okay? So what I'm going to do, oh, and before I forget, the music for today is Blood, Sweat, and Tears. So if you've got any blood, sweat, and tears at home, at least look up, You Make Me So Very Happy. Anyways, I know it's terrible. So I've got some colored pencils, or pencil crayons here. And I thought we'll just scribbly dibble some of these guys down here. I don't know what these colors are. This is a cheap set that I bought through local dollar store, and they're fun and they're triangular, but it took 4 of these little metal tins to get a full set. But the colors on the bottom tend not to correspond with the color of the lead. Right, Corb? You coming up? I'll put cam on you, embarrass you in front of everybody. All right, so we're going to draw some horses with some riders on them, and we're going to start to put together the idea of this sky group. Now, the theory is this. So if I set up the composition on the paper that's below, okay, and then I go in and I start to draw all of these different horses on the tissue paper, okay, when I get enough of this image put together, I'm going to take a gel medium and I'm going to adhere the tissue paper to the surface of this blue heavy grade, nice and thick cardstock. And so why don't I just draw on the blue cardstock? I'm glad you asked that. The whole thing about when you adhere tissue paper down to a surface, oftentimes, okay, let's use this piece as an example. You can see the folds in it in the camera, and you can see, hopefully, let's move it up. You can see the crinkling and the buckling that happens, the little fold overs that happens in the tissue paper. Now, when you take this and you adhere this down to another surface, because the gel medium, you know, and I'm going to use Winsor & Newton Artist Acrylic Gel Gloss. So when I put this down and use this as an adhering tool to put it down onto the surface of the paper, it's going to do that. It's going to do a little bit of this bit of business. And I like that. I like it a lot. You can get some really fun effects with that. Let me see if I can find something for you. Okay, it's not helping. So I reach my arm across, and the guy immediately tries to lick my elbow. He's kind of a weirdo. All right. No, that's not. So I've done some of these before where I've used tissue paper underneath the surface. Now, let me just see if I can show you an example of it. I think this one might. Oh, you're glad you're ready to go, Chris. Me too. You know. There's got some number one. Okay, so here we go. This will be in it. So this is now it's a black and white representation in the image, and there we go. So what this actually is the surface of this here is the little crinkles that appear around the subject that give it that sort of destabilized little what would you call that, distressed sort of a surface look to it, is because it's done on tissue paper, and the paint goes over top of the tissue paper. And so with that in mind, effects like that are kind of super fun. So you can do your drawing on whatever you like on the tissue, and then when you lay that down and you put that down with gel medium over top, and it does this little bit of business, it's going to be fun. So I got little random thumbnails of horses, and let's do one. What shall we? Oh, what shall we indeed? So the other thing that you can do with this is that you can take your own drawing with the tissue paper, and if you want to replicate the same image, repetitively, you can do so. So I'm just going to draw. This is purple, apparently. I was going for a charcoal gray. Good job, pencils. I don't recommend this pencil set, by the way. The actual handling of the pencils is great, but you're going to have to go through your entire pencil set and mark which one is which color. Right, Corbin? Right? Okay, so we're drawing in our first horse. Now, I think that for the army of horses jumping through the sky, I'm going to want to do them in a smaller scale. Just come right up. Corbin would really like to be in the camera today, I think. Buddy. All right, come on. Here, sit down beside me. What are you doing? Guy's a maniac. Okay. How you doing, Seven? Welcome aboard. How are you? And hi to anybody else that hasn't said hi to everybody else. That's fine. Okay, so I'm drawing this, putting in this horse on the tissue paper, and then we're going to put this down onto our surface. So, nice kitty, good kitty. Yeah. Well, technically, today's been a bit of a maniac. So the other thing that's fun about this is that when you've got that gel medium on there, when you do washes, those peaks and valleys that are in the tissue paper now start to add to that distressed aspect of it, because of course, the pigment's going to collect in those peaks and valleys, right? And rather than being too worried about how we're going about these things and what we're trying to do with that, just try it. Just go for it. Just, if you're drawing on the tissue paper, though, remember, you're going to have to be light in your touch on that. You're going to have to be gentle in the marks that you're making. If you've got really sharpened pencils and you're cutting in, you're going to rip the paper. You're going to cut right into it. So do that. All right. So I've got a number of things, like the black and white that I just showed you. I've got a number of different things I try, like onion bags. Okay, onion bags. The little mesh that they are, is that when you're done with your onions, wash the bag. And because if you need to put netting into a drawing, why not cut a piece of the onion bag and put the mesh netting, just gel medium right into the image? I mean, it's a short step to a difficult thing to illustrate. So it's implementing little things like that gives you some interesting approaches to how you're going about doing your work. So I'm following the muscles of the horse for the shapes and the shadows in the horse. We're just sort of following around. I showed you the little thumbnails here I've got. And, now it's about 2x2, the image. And because I don't want it to be, I'm not trying to draw the exact thing. I'm trying to use this as a foundation to get an idea of horse, and then we do our best. Right? The more precious and worrisome we make the situation of trying to get the exact image of horse, the longer it's going to be for us to get it actually done. Okay, so here is our first horse coming in. And Mandy says it creates awesome textures in a piece. It does. It does indeed. Another thing to consider is that I'm drawing this horse in purple. One would think not to use purple because horses generally are not. And that's okay. That's okay for us because we're not overly concerned about that part right now because we're going to do some more work on these. But we're just trying to capture essence of horse. Essence of horse. So I've run right to the top of the tissue paper here, by the way. That's okay. That works for us too. See you later, Corbin. You got fed up with me. Well, if you're not going to pay attention to me, I'm leaving. That's what he said. Huh. Can't find it. Oh, eraser. Found it. Again, drawing on tissue paper. Be genteel. Okay, so horses are, challenging things to draw. They're, for whatever reason, they just are. Some people really capture hold of that really easily and quickly, but it takes a second. Miriam says, the essence of the horse in your movie theater. So if the horse is a black stallion, purple would be an excellent color to draw with. You can make a darker black with purple. Yeah, you're right. But I'm leaning into a brown horse here. That's why my association of the purple thing was. But you are right. That would be a great color to implement in a black horse. Okay, so we're going to put some of that hair moving here, and then we're going to let's build up a little bit more of that horse. Now, the question I need to ask is this going to be the horse that we're going to repeat? Or do we want to put in a couple more horses here? So I think that what I'm going to do is let's try to structure our rider a little bit here. Now, I'm not getting into the whole saddle and all the business. Not necessarily concerned because this is kind of a fantastical image in the first place. So they don't really need one. Hey, Jim, how you doing today, sir? Good to see you. And Gary, how you doing today? Horses can't draw very well, says Jim. But you can draw a horse to water, but you can't make it ink. Oh my goodness. I read that whole thing. You think I would have caught on before we got to the bad punchline. Okay, so here's our rider. Okay, and we will contend with the rest of that business in a minute, but let's finish up our horse here. Get some more of these details of him in there. And then we'll start putting our next horse directly beside. So, hola. Nice. Okay, so this is our first one coming in to the composition. So the idea today, again, is this guy splitting open, an army on horseback coming out, while people on the ground look up at it. He said, that's not too much, is it? I said, nope. That's exactly, I want challenges, guys. I want to approach things in a different way. Hence drawing on tissue paper. Okay, so here's our big horse, and we'll put in his hind legs here. And we'll get the next one. Now, horse enthusiasts are going to look at this and go, Christopher, that's not a perfect horse. I know. We're doing our best, folks. Like, I want to cut that down to make more emphasis on the movement. Tissue paper. So the reason I'm drawing on the tissue paper again, okay, is that when we adhere it down with gel medium, it's going to do all kinds of crazy fun effects. And that's what we're looking for. All right. If anybody has any questions or thoughts or one-page ideas or anything like that they want to spit at me like hot fire, please feel free to do so. I'm down with your bad sounds. I'm keen like a jelly bean. All right, so I'm going to tilt the angle on this because we're going to mess with this just a little bit. I'm going to switch colors to whatever random this might be. And we're going to put our second horse in here. And the reason that I'm switching out to put a second horse in with the second value is one, a clear delineation from one horse to the next, right? And two, just because I want to. Sometimes it's fun when you go through your drawing and you keep switching your colors because it gives you different it switches your headspace up a little bit as you transition from one element to another element. You realize you'll see different things in and out of it because there's different color approaches to it. Miriam says, idea, the day we met. Okay, the day we met, the day we meet. The day we, meet. Miriam. All right, it's going in the book. Done. The Zid. The Zanzigi. Thank you for that, Miriam. It's a fun one. Uh-oh, everybody behave. Janet's here. How you doing, Jay? Good to see you. Welcome aboard. Welcome aboard the ship today, and we'll be cruising at an altitude of Scooby-Doo and what's-de-what's. Okay, so this horse here, let's going to crack it on him. Now, I'm going to put him in a different motion than the previous one, just because we don't want them to all be the same. Boring. So we're going to switch them up as we go. So there's that knuckle. I guess it's a knee. What do you call that? That's a knee. It's a knee. It's a horse knee. Seven says, hope I'm mesmerized by the tissue drawing. Okay. Manny says, me behave? Never. And Jim's waving. Okay. All right, so I started overthinking a second ago. Did you catch when I did it? Did you see when I started overthinking in my own drawing? You can tell because I slow down. I don't like slowing down. Don't overthink. Don't worry yourself too much. It's going to come together. It's all going to work out. Going to make all of the children laugh. That's a Bjork quote. It makes all the children laugh. That's what she says about music. Bjork. It's not just for breakfast anymore. Anyways. Okay, so here's our second horse coming in. Let's get the definition of muscle through here, and then we're going to get through here. Again, this isn't a perfect anatomy of a horse. Some people spend a lot of time really concerned and worried about that. We're telling a story. And so in the course of telling our story, we're getting the images of things down. But we're not so overly concerned about it that it's going to make a slower roll. Now, there's an artist that I've shown here a couple of times that I can show again for those that are uninitiated into the value that was Mr. Winsor McKay. And Winsor McKay, as an illustrator for the Chicago Tribune and a number of other papers, for his adventures of Little Nemo and Slumberland, he would draw a lot of animals without actually knowing what they look like. And so if you can allow yourself to be unencumbered by the specifics of having to finish the animal you're drawing in to make it look ideal, those things will come over time. You'll just get better at recognizing shapes and forms. But if you're just trying to tell a story that has, quick doodle about horses, if your horse looks relatively like a horse, people are going to get it. If it doesn't work, it just doesn't work. But the more time that you spend overly concerned and circling about making that horse look perfect, or whatever the object is. I'm just using horse as an example. Because like I said, they're challenging to draw. But if you spend all of your time worrying about getting that thing perfect, you're not going to get a story done. And at the end of the day, that's what we're here for. That's the job. That's the job. Get the job done. Go on. You lower that nostril. All right. So here's our second horse coming in. I'm featuring the horses over the riders. Okay, just making sure I'm caught up with everybody. Anybody has any questions? If anybody has any one-page ideas? Anybody has any, I don't know, existential dilemma that you want to spill to the group and see how they can break it down for you? And I mean it, break it down, as in dancing. Let us know. Let us know. We're all here. Got a good bunch of people here. We've got funny senses of humor and lots of artistic talent comes together at a lot of these streams, and I feel really honored that you guys are sharing your time here. So we're putting that shoulder in of this horse here. And we're going to push the hind legs back again. So they're not all the same size horse. That doesn't matter. I'm just drawing pictures. So we got the intimation of a rider on the back of said horse. Carry that leg around. I used to always marvel when I was a kid. There would always be, I found this particularly with young ladies, is that there would always be somebody so proficient at drawing horses. And, I just look at it and go, that's crazy complicated, that animal. So, but then when I finally took the time to draw one, oh, okay, it's just shapes. All right, we got, I'm missing something. Why isn't that horse riding a bicycle? Because that wasn't the suggestion, Jim. Jim suggested a page where I had a horse playing guitar, riding a bicycle over a fourth dimensional parallax, which is actually a type of black hole event. And I did it. Oops, I forgot the legs. We put that in a page. We put it in the story as a drug-induced movie idea. And just because you and your friends might think it's cool in the moment doesn't mean anybody else is going to know what you're talking about. Which isn't a comment on the suggester. It was just playing with the notion of it. Okay, one more for good measure. One more for good behavior. Let's put one more horse in here. And then what we'll do with this is that I'm going to adhere it into the surface of the drawing. 7 says quantum mechanics and quantum computers AI. Okay, thanks, 7. Potatoes, tomatoes. All right, so we're gonna angle this horse differently. I've changed colors again just to keep it interesting for all the folks back home. So, but our scale's going to be relatively the same. Let's see how we do here. It's kind of a weird. I tend to work my way to the head on a horse. I don't know why. I just do. So starting at this point around the head. See, there's no reason. There's absolutely no reason to subjectively see one part of a shape as another. From one part of a shape of an object from another part of the shape of the object as more complex than the other. It's all just relatively the same, right? Hi, everyone. I'm about to enter my classroom. See you around. Try to watch the replay tonight. Hey, have a great day in class, Chris. Thanks for stopping in. Down there in Mexico, sculpting young minds. All right, where are we at? Chris says, bye. I'm making brunch. Oh, nice, Evan. Brunch sounds fancy. Okay, so here's our next horse moving in, and we're going to push this big old shoulder shape. And then let's move the neck back up, pull some of these lines out so as not to confuse ourselves or the viewer. I know I'm shifting it around. Sometimes you need to shift your drawing around. Get some prettier hair. Okay, so we know there's a big muscle, big plane that comes across here, moves up into there. Interrupted there. Jim says I'm going to a funeral. Well, Debbie down right now. I'll catch you guys tomorrow. Watch later tonight. Full fungus steaming ahead. Good to hear, Jim. That's really good to hear. I'm sorry for your loss, and I hope you have an okay day. And our thoughts are out to you and yours. It's a time of the season, I think, where in life, or at least for me, where a lot of people that, we're all getting older. It's never easy. It's never easy. Okay, so now I'm putting in that first leg. There's that big old knee, big old knuckle of a knee. Come down into the next joint here. I always love the really pronounced joints that horses have. I always thought that was so cool. It's really nice people stopping in and saying hi on busy days. Appreciate that very much. Okay, so so we're almost done our third horse. I'm just going to put in a couple more bits of information and get the rider in here. Again, the riders aren't our focus. The riders are holding here. Okay, so give a little more interestingness to this horse by splitting the legs instead of having them working as a pair. You get the idea that this horse is jumping forward, and let's find a place for one of the hind legs to stick through here. Okay, so here we go. We've got at least 3 horses moving along. Should I do a fourth one? Does anybody think I should add a fourth one for all of our horses coming out of the sky? Yay, nay, maybe say, Okay, so what I'm going to do first and foremost is take that off of there, and I'm going to tear down some of the tissue paper that's around the image, okay? I'm using a ruler for my tearing job. Okay. And again, I'm not overly precious and worried here about everything being perfect, because we're going to be messy with it in a second anyways, aren't we? That's right, Chris, we are. Okay. Well. All right, so I'm going to take this piece of cardstock off. And what I'm going to do, move the horses for a second, is let's make some marks on this to give us a guideline for where our overall image is going to be. Right? Right. Okay? Okay. So what I've done here is engaged where the half-inch measurement is, and I'm just going to run it throughout the whole page. Don't do this unless you have, overly worked tips of your fingers, because you'll get a massive paper cut from it. This is a carpenter's trick. It's where you set a gauge mark, and this finger here runs along the edge as these 2 fingers hold the pencil down, which tends to be a large marking pencil for cutting wood. And it's a fast way to just run long span without having to fart around the ruler. So that's all I was doing there. Okay. Blazing Strikers says, I like Cosmo. Okay, cool. Janet says, I noticed that superb tool, that ruler. There we go. Okay, so now I know that we're going to need an introductory space, an introductory panel. Okay, so depending on how big we want that, I don't think it needs to be that big. And we'll put that guideline for that in here. There we go. And then we're going to put our horses down and 2 shakes of a lamb's tail. And so they're going to take up a good part of our image here. But that's not to say that the entire image is now beholden to where the placement of them is. Things are going to go over top. Things are going to go underneath, right? Welcome aboard, Blazing Strikers. Blazing Strikers. think it's the first time I'm saying blazing strikers. I tried to say hi to everybody that comes and joins us. I really appreciate, by the way, the word of mouth that people are sharing with others and trying to spread these fun things that we're trying to do here with the suggestion of these ideas, and I mean trying to figure out how to come up with, well, how am I going to do that, right? Okay, so I'm going to put down some of this medium throughout here. Now, big stretch. I'm just running some of it over the area, not too overly precious or overly concerned about the whole surface being covered, because the fun thing about this stuff, whoops, is that it permeates. So when we put it over top, it still goes through. So where's our edge? We want to have overlap. So we're going to go down here. Now, this is the part I talked to you about earlier. So as we're putting this medium down, if it bunches and bubbles and things like that here, we're good with that, right? Aren't we? Yes, we are. We're all great with that, Chris. Thanks. Oh, Corbin gave me the nod from over there. Just leave me out of it, Jack. I even had it in the cat cam today. Did you see that? It's a big day. You missed that. Go back. Watch that part. Corbin makes it okay. Corbin climbed up on the desk. Hey, you want me to do all this stuff here, right here for you, you know? Okay, so this, you see how we're getting some of this business here with the textures and the folding? Yeah, I like that stuff. I leave that stuff in there. I'm not overly concerned about that stuff because, in my opinion, it makes it more interesting. So now when we're working over top of this, you know, it's sort of, it gives us some pre-established marks and surface to have to contend with. And those challenges can be the things that really make or break something. So you can see how some of that's coming together now. Some of these crazy marks and bits of business. So I'm still just going across. This is a really rough and ugly brush that I'm using, and I'm using it on purpose so that it will put the medium down. We're not, you know, so that's what that is, but we're not concerned too much about beating the brush up in the process of doing it. And because it's so rough, basically, is that it's going to add little bits, pushing the paper around in the surface. Well, it's good to have some water in it, though. My water dishes. This is one of the perks of having a reach, is that the water dish is 3 feet that way, 4 feet that way. So I just lean. Okay, so just finishing off adhering this stuff down. A little bit of more medium in there, but it's dirty, this process. It is dirty, and dirty is okay in this regard because that bleeding of the colored pencils is fine. It's not going to affect the whole thing overall, but what it does do is act as a sort of secondary value to the blue that is the cardstock we're working on. And we're going to put a lot of white into it in the first place. So it's okay. Now, I've bled the one horse's head right up to the edge of the image. So as far as it goes for our page, it's going to go all the way to the top. I'll cut this off in a second, but in the meantime, hey, back down. Okay. In the meantime, Okay, so there's wrinkles and the bits of business that we've, crinkles, wrinkles, whatever you want to call, the little folded over pieces of tissue paper, the bunching. These are all plus column wins. So this is going to take a second to dry, but I'm going to further big stretch. I'm going to further the image a little bit. Got these pencils here still. They didn't run away on us, didn't jump out a window. We're going to use these to finish these horses off. Yeah, so I got the first two of the Zine Swamp books done, and then we've got the next two that'll be underway, and I'm going to send a whole bunch of envelopes Janet's way here. I just got to get down to the place to photocopy them all out because I'm not using that much color photocopier or ink here. Okay, where's the first pencil? There you are. This is still drying. I recognize that. We're going to just put some of these lines in here, get some more of this information down. Here's this rider. And again, we're not overly worried about it. This isn't the perfect drawing. We know it is. All right, so now we've got clear shapes of all of these cats and kittens. Catsy and kittens. Just give us an idea. Okay, am I caught up? I'm caught up. So if anybody has any deeper thoughts, deep thoughts. So I'm started into it before everything's dry. I don't care. Has this got any juice left in it? I don't know if it does. I don't think it does. Next. You're still wrapped. What about you? You got anything in there? I'm going through my white there it is. That's what the one I'm looking for. I threw those other two out. All right. Okay, so now I'm running through with this white and playing with the forward, the foreground, the background. We're going to start monkeying around with this a little bit. Now, what we can do is, as we're putting some of this light value throughout and pulling these horses forward, when we draw, because it's a whole bunch of horses running out of this hole in the sky, we'll put further lines of them spread throughout the composition, but more like a silhouette. And see what that gives us. I don't know if you can see this now, but I'll hold this up. So where I just went over, can you pick up and can you see in the camera the ridges that are happening in the tissue now, in that texture? It's like it's, free. It's basically like a free effect. How did you get that effect? Didn't do anything for it. Well, you did. You put tissue down, but it's those little textures that, as we get farther along, and whatever the composition is that you're working on, where those underlying values affect all of those colors, all those marks and values and things that you put on top every subsequent layer. And that's a lot of fun to me. That gives us something to work with. Now, before I go any farther, let's brace yourself. Janet, here comes the ruler again. So I am going to run a line across here. And we'll run it all the way across to there. So the reason that I've done that, but I haven't dragged it across the whole image yet, is that I don't know that it's going to go all the way across. But what I do know is that this gives us a framing position for where these lower panels are going to go. Because remember, there's 3 different parts to this. One is sky opens. 2 is army on horseback comes out. And 3 is people looking up. Oh, that's awesome. Right? Or whatever they're saying. I think you know which way I'm going to go. But this has also given us a center point for the whole piece. And so this first panel that I have, see, subjectively, we can have more and more horses through here and through here. We establish the rip and a couple of horse-looking objects coming out of the front of the rip. And then we carry on through here with the whole of the horse army. And then this space here we can then devote to our responses to it. So there's the 3 different aspects of it. But I've given an extra wide space here so that I can have people looking up. Is that a bird? And then the final space here can have an afternote. A good story has 4. Any story has to have 4 kind of underlying things to it. One is the context to the narrative. You're identifying your characters or your environment or the happenstance, the situation at hand. It's a totalitaristic state or it's a whatever. It's a fantastic Lord of the Rings world, whatever. And then what is the impetus of the story, or what is conflict, right? The third part of it's your climax, and then the fourth part of it's your conclusion. There's the 4 C's for you: context, conflict, climax, conclusion. That's one way to look at it. If you like the letter C, which I think is pretty good. That's why they call me Run C Man. Anyways. So when we try to piece that together, we can have, here is the sky ripping open. Here is the big issue at hand of this entire army of people on horseback spilling through it. Here is the sort of impact or the climax of our people going, whoa, right? And then what's the conclusion? What's the afternoon of it? So when we're looking at most stories, let's try to think about those 4 different parts. Even if it's just a scene where people are sitting across from each other chatting, it's still something to consider, those 4 different points. Even if you can't fit them in really obviously, like even if it's not an opaque sort of blatant 4 pieces of a story. Like when you're doing short stories I highly recommend people try 4-page or 8-page short stories, or taking a page and cutting it down into those 4 sections and try to figure out if you can, have some images and text that contextualizes those 4 different aspects. And the more that we develop those things, the more embedded that way of thinking comes into our work. So as it's drying a little more, you can see the white paint a little more clearly. And that is a good thing. So I haven't put in all of the details as I was laying this out, because we'll find that. We'll find those details as we're taking it to the next step, right? If anybody has any questions related to my rambling, or, hey, Chris, what's your favorite kind of coconut? Whatever. If you got questions, let me know. I'm here to help. I'm a helper. I'm almost a said I'm an excellent swimmer. Anyways. We're losing storytelling, folks. We're losing young people today to all of our advances in technologies, to having them just sit down and understand story. Everything has to be contextualized in, some video game narrative or things like that, and some high octane aesthetic, or these action movies where the floundering narcissist Tom Cruise is doing all kinds of crazy stunts in order to keep your attention, and you realize, wow, there really wasn't all that much story to it, though, was it? Okay, so as we go over, so this is where the tissue paper cuts across our page, and so our image and our page. And so as I'm putting the white down here, so you can see this clear line, but as I'm throwing this white down here, I'm tapping it with my finger to make sure I get it into that crust, that little space in between. Not the greatest horse ever drawn, but they work. They kind of resemble horses, or horse-like. A bit of horsing around and making them. 7 says, good 4 to 8 pages. Yeah, 4 to 8 page pieces. If you can, and again, the more verbose that they are, the more words that you have on them. If you've got single images and 4 or 5 balloons, right, you are doing yourself a disservice. As complicated and as complex as it is, a real benefit for approaching story is to break it down. If you start using like a 9-panel page and you start plotting all those little different key pieces of information or key moments that you find yourself describing in panels, well, you're getting the storytelling part down with the writing, but you're missing the point of this being sequential literature, being a fusion of the two. So if you break down a page into like 9 panels and start there for trying to illustrate all of these points, these story points, these information points that you're trying to get across in your piece, into each of these panels. And say you only need 6 panels. You got 6 panels. Say you only need 8 panels. Divide the page up for 8 panels. Say this panel is a little more dramatically important. Make it a little bit larger. Smaller panels continues the rhythm of a story. The larger panels slow that story a bit down. Now, whether it's for the visual image or it's for more contextual image, but explore that, play with that. This isn't the be-all end-all of how to do things, but what it is something to play with. It's a storytelling approach to play with and have fun. Okay, so we've got our 3 bigs who have jumped through the scratch in the sky. We'll get back to that. I thought it'd be fun to focus on the horsies. Miriam says, I'm out of lurking mode. Well, hello, Miriam. Okay, I saw that rule yesterday. I want one. Now, Hobby Lobby is, I think, what you have in the United States, if you're in the States. In Canada, we have Michael's. These are $10 Canadian. But the great thing about these rulers is you can square off anywhere on your page. Just by holding this sucker here, you can get that same measurement on all four sides, okay? And you can make sure that all of your panels, if you're doing panels in storytelling, that they square off. They're nice and boxed. They're nice and rectangle. There's no crazy warped images that you see with a lot of loose hand way of making frames, or if you're self-ruling a lot of times, unless you're pretty exact, you can get a lot of wonky sort of panel shapes. So that if you're doing in this, let's say you scan it and put it in your computer, when you do a drag of the marching ants to make a box shape, they should line up somehow. They should line up somewhat. So, okay, so there we go with our three primary horses and their riders, right? And we've got some of the voids around them, lightly whited in. We've got these other panels that are going to go in and out of them in the composition. Those are all marked off for us, right? So 7, when you come, you say shalom, bye. Have another word is latriot. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. If I'm not, I apologize. Fun. Okay. And French, yeah, bonjour and au revoir. And English, you go yo and later, or other variations on those U's. Okay. So we've got the main of our composition laid out, and so what I'm going to end up doing is cutting a third out of this. We'll put a little gutter space in between. And so what that gives us now is relatively 5 beats to our story. And the reason I say 5 is 1 is the introduction of the context. 2 is the horses, and you follow them down through here. But textually, I'm going to take you this way. So it's almost like I'm adding an extra beat by having the fusion of text in picture here, some text, but largely image here, more text, less image down below. So it's almost like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that should take us through the brief piece of narrative that we're going to establish of, oh, yeah, something's happening and maybe it's good or bad. So I think that for the rest of this panel area, it would be to do what we can. Like, let's say, what do you call, it's not a flock of horses. What do you call a whole bunch of horses racing? We'll try that, see what that shows us. No internet. What? No, what in the hey, no who's and the what's? Well, that's all right. So we already know our horse shape. Okay, so we're going to put more of, maybe I need to let it dry a little more. I think I might. But what we're going to do is we're going to put more of these horses. I don't know if you can see that at all. Not at all. Okay. So we're going to put more of these characters in the background. And as this moves along, right, as it sort of, the composition moves through so that we understand there's a whole bunch of horses spilling out, then it gives much more gravitas to the scene. It gives you a sense that, oh, this is a big deal going on. So we're just going to put some more of these riders and horses and in a silhouette. And I'm not too worked up about the exactness of it, because we're going to, this is a really heavy red, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to push this back. Oh, I'm missing a whole bunch. A little bit, Christopher. Yes. See you later. Yep. Oh, okay. Seven and Miriam are talking. Anyway, in Israel, we don't use that word. We simply say bye. A herd, a mob of horses. Oh, okay. A herd. Right. Okay. So, drawing in all of these horses, I'm going to replicate some of these actions, and the horses really are going to merge together as one sort of really moppy silhouette, but that's okay. We want that. And then I can switch that up a little bit more by switching down to some idea of recognizable shapes like the horse heads. But they're overlapped by the red, yet they're still moving through. So hopefully in this regard, you'll get a sense of a large amount of them moving through. So a harem of horses. Oh my gosh. A harem. Well, to that I say, nay. Sorry. Alas Contest wants of short stories, 5 words, including title. 5 was 5,000 pesos. Who won it? In the cover put, how I won 500 pesos or 5,000 pesos. 5 words, including the title, and they simply put how I won 5,000 pesos. Oh, for heaven's sakes. They didn't even get the right amount of words for the title. Or for the contest, did they? Characters. Always some kind of characters. Okay, so here we've got all of our people coming through. Now, we can also come through inside of here and embed inside of this some shapes for additional, characters in the background and give a sense that there's far larger numbers coming through. But just pushing the image along, right? And so some of the elements that we've already got here, we can start moving those around in different combinations and behind the other guys. Those recurring elements get overlooked for the sense of depth that you're implying inside the story like that. Again, only one word in Spanish. See, other languages are wonderful for, like their simplicity in terms. Like their languages are far more effective than English. Far more effective. English is sloppy. It's a sloppy language. Okay, so here we've got some horses doing their thing, and we'll add more to that after. But let's start pulling them out. Now we can add more to it, but we're just putting the white around them like this. Ideally implies that they're spilling out of the light. So that's the theory. That's the thinking I have. As much thought as we might put into whatever it is that we're working on, it's only successful if the viewer gets it. This tape on the wall, you see, means about the absolute blemish on society that certain values today are. And somebody else goes, it's a piece of tape on the wall. I've seen that actually happen at an opening, at an art show opening. I I loved it. He said, come on, it sticks. I'm going for a beer, he said to his friend. Told him what bar he'd be at and left. So great. His friend stuck around because, his girlfriend was in the intro. People are funny. Okay, so there we go with building up some of this. Now, as I put the colors in, I'm going to wash some of these colors over. Okay, so as I'm coming in, here we go with the watercolor. All right. Oh my God, yeah, you guys are good to go. Yeah, let's do that. Okay, so I've got this tan color, this sandy. Have you got any water in there? Not really. I mean, really, honestly. You do. Okay, so there's your skinny little brush. Who are you? Hey, you're our friend. Let's go. All right, so I've got this tan color that I'm going to use first, and as I put it down, it's going to do this super fun thing until enough of it takes hold where it's going to bead and break up on the surface of the horse. I'm going to leave that because I'm going to put another wash over top of that, and it's going to build on top of this sort of frisculated wash. And what it'll also do is all these little crazy marks that we've put down first with the tissue paper as the surface, it's going to fill in all those and pick up on all of that. That's yummy. So I guess unfortunately Jim has to go to a service today. We have no question of the day, so if anybody in the conversation is sharing ideas, feel free to, by all means, discuss. I'm going to carry that over the dryer as well. It's not going to stick around. So here's our first horse coming down. 7 says, whiskey and beer for my horses. Willie Nelson. Okay. So you see that second wash is a little more complete. Okay, so here's our first horse. And I know I have not drawn the tails. I know. All right, and so, well, let's use this as our second horse color. Oh, I switched it up. You thought I was going to do the one in the middle. You guys are crazy. Yeah. What do we have? 119. So because we put that gel medium down, the pencil crayon is sticking around. See, I like the imperfections in the process. I really do. And because they lead us down to opportunities that we may not have considered otherwise. So if the more reticent we are in our image making and our approach to crafting our stories and our images, the more reticent we are and concerned about things, and we hold ourselves up in that thinking process, you're going to miss opportunities. It's inevitable. I mean, we're all going to do it, but you can find some really fun stuff in the unexpected. Try a different medium that you don't normally use. You know? Step outside your comfort zone. Change up the subject matter that you're working on. Right? All those little things. What are we at? Yeah, Kristen. No, okay. Just making sure there's no questions and stuff. We got a quiet crowd today. Well, in that case, allow me to share with you the song stylings of Neil Sedaka. Ready? Sing along if you will. Hey, don't forget to like and subscribe. All that stuff. Yeah, see, it either comes out really opaque or really splotchy. There we go. Now we're getting a little something more. It's coming together. I don't know if any of these approaches that I take to mark making are of any assistance to people. I really don't. But they work for me, you know. And if anything that does work in my headspace can be passed on and assist you in whatever your storytelling might be, yay! Go team, go! Go team, go! Okay, so all right, so we've got the 4 points. The 5 points in the story, really, but the 4 main points of our story are together in our composition. We've got all that figured out. We have got some understanding of what the imagery is going to be. We know that in the sky here is going to be the Great Tear across the sky. Okay, we'll draw a city skyline in or something like that. Here comes all these crazy horses spilling out and spilling down below to the city environment down here, which is a repetition of this element. And then where the viewer will read it like so. Okay, so whatever we do here has to continue the narrative of this panel across. Okay, so we'll just play more with this limitless amounts of horses spilling out the sky. And then this part is going to be our reaction of people, and this part is going to be our conclusion of what could potentially be next. At any story that you read, in any, you'll really notice this on television with a lot of syndicated shows, you know, with your soap operas or your Lost or any of these shows that the narrative, the contextual narrative moves forward to the next show to the next show, is that story never ends, really. Even when you look at Seinfeld, let's take Seinfeld. When it starts, and Kramer does this crazy walk into the room, and Jerry goes, I haven't seen you for like 2 weeks, man. Yeah, you know, that librarian, I've been dating her. You know, so there's a bunch of story before the episode of television that you're watching that is precede that episode of television. And even though there'll be some culmination, some resolution to all of the dilemmas of said program, to whatever extent, whether fully concluded because it's sitcom television and each episode is its own standalone, or if it gets closer to one more thing exposed towards the season's conclusion, the big narrative, right? That story doesn't end either, is my point. So even when we're doing one-page stories, if you've got a character at the start that's walked into the frame, well, that character came from somewhere. And whatever the end of it is, even if it's the destruction of planet Earth, let's say, and all the characters being blown up, well, theoretically, in that contextual narrative, there's debris floating in the stars. You know, there's aliens on another planet coming across this blown up planet of Earthlings as a cautionary tale. The point is that any story can continue on some level. So don't concern yourself too much about having to have the great introduction and the great conclusion and the resolution of all things therein. Because sometimes it's more interesting, to focus on the moments and to intimate the larger narrative. The Beavers piece I just did is here's the larger narrative of what happened about finding this peach tree. But on the flip side of that, I've got the smaller little story that is going on that I don't tell people is going on. Like, as the beaver starts regaling you with his tale, the second beaver comes up and says, "Cup of tea? Aye, sounds lovely." So anywho, and as he continues on with his narrative, the second beaver comes back with the tea. Tea? Thank you. So what happened then? And we continue on with the story. And at the end of it all, there's the teacup floating in the water because he's so impassioned with the story. So it doesn't matter. But it's almost like the story of tea, the fact that here these two are jibber jabbering like it's a regular old day, and here's the tea being drank and subsequently spilled, is the small minor part. That's the short story. It's this conversation between two people. But the reality of it is that he's doing a flashback to what happened about getting this peach tree down. So that's the sort of stuff that I'm always going to advocate to allow to happen. Don't overthink it. Don't overplan it. If you sit down, you got 8 pages of notes and you still haven't drawn a picture yet, stop it. Allow yourself to scribble out some ideas. Make some mistakes along the way. In the progression along for finding these little stories that we're trying to tell, you're going to have a great deal of mistakes. You're going to have a great deal of side tangents. But at the same time, you're going to find all kinds of different things. And that's fun. So yeah, by all means, please play. Miriam says, on tissue paper, I use alcohol markers. I never tried watercolor. I did gel painting with acrylics too. I try everything, right? I try everything. I know that there's a lot of, this works with this works with that. Everything works with everything with moderation, right? So I will be using some paint markers, some et cetera, et cetera. But the thing about putting watercolor down over top of a gel medium is that it does this. I'm going to hold this up for the camera, and hopefully it picks up on all of what I'm trying to show you. Do you see the distressing of the value and the separating of the pigment and how it leaves little, let me see if I can get it there. Yes, Corbin, just sit down. Just sit down. Okay, well, I see you. Give me a minute. So these little marks you see in the neck, those are the little raised surfaces, the little globules that are sort of, as they dry, in these little imperfections now with the tissue paper. And when the watercolor goes down over top of it, it peaks and valleys in how it absorbs into the paper. And that is super fun. You can still work over top of this with alcohol markers. You can still work over top of this with, acrylics or inks or pencil crayons or whatever else. Because once you go over top of that gel medium with the watercolor, now you have some tooth, some surface for pencil crayons to take a hold of lightly. The more you scratch it off, the less you're going to have again. You got to go back to that. But these little bits, there is watercolor medium absorbing to the paper because there was a void in the gel medium, and that's those specific spots. That's why you get these imperfections. But those are the fun things. Those are the fun things. Like I've got ballpoint pen here, pencil crayon, watercolor, tissue paper, gel medium, and the blue cardstock itself. Oh, and the white Sharpie that I'm using is an oil-based one. I'm a kitchen sink guy as far as it goes for mixed medium. I'm a kitchen sink guy. What was a review that I got for the new book is heterodox visual storytelling. I don't follow the rules. So it's trying new things and exploring new things at all times. And I see some fantastic stuff that people like Miriam and Dee Dee and Devin, Yolanda, and all kinds of people. And I'm not leaving anybody out as an act of omission. It's just the three names that came to mind immediately. There's so many interesting things that people are doing in the correlation of visual elements together. And, what you can come up with from that is what makes it yours. Maybe you just want to work with ballpoint pen and watercolor. Yes. Maybe you just want to work with pencil crayon. Yes. Pencil crayon, alcohol markers, and paints, and yes, whatever. There's no rules. You want to sew sticks onto this paper. That counts. You want to see that happen? Look up Anselm Kiefer's Colossus. He actually has attached a shepherd's staff to a large painting. Just whatever works for you. Give it a try. When I was young, I used to say before I was conceited, now I'm perfect. Love it, Mary. That's great. Mistakes, no mistakes. I'm perfect. Well, there you go. And that's what Mary even used to say that. Before I was conceited, now I'm perfect. There you go. It's not that I'm wrong. It's that none of you are correct, right? It's one of those sort of things. Yeah. I'm an agent of chaos, right? Okay. So anyhow, I think we'll leave off for our stream today. We're at an hour and a half, and we've got some family stuff to do today. So thank you, everybody, for coming out. Thank you for the suggestions, Scott Card. We'll get this done, and I'll post it tomorrow. The original will be on Patreon tomorrow. And I'm having a lot of fun getting these things done. We're having a lot of fun finalizing all the preprint for the book, and just finishing the cover. And it's as ridiculously unnecessarily complex as I could make it. So things are going along smoothly and at pace, and other things that I'm working on are going along smoothly at pace. And I hope that whatever projects that you're working on yourself are doing the same. And if anybody ever has questions or thoughts or ideas or suggestions for one-page stories, please feel free to reach out to me. I'm down with that if it helps you produce, right? If it's vacillating, if it's just, well, I will work with watercolor, just work with watercolor. I know it sounds so bleak and dismissive, but the reality is that just do a thing. Just do a thing, have fun. You're going to make mistakes. That's part of the fun. I'm going to take off. Thank you very much, everybody, for coming out. That looks cool. Email. Yeah. When I get a chance, Seven. Sorry, I've been really, really swamped with family stuff. As soon as I get a chance, I'll take a look at that for you, sir. In the meantime, I hope everybody's well, and I will be back tomorrow at 2 in the afternoon, EST. And I hope to see you there. If you've got stuff you want to share, let me know. In the meantime, thanks for coming out, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye for now.